Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of
Introducing your trusted source for high-quality Black emojis, better known as Blackmoji. We believe Black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of Black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
The Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of attorneys that concentrate in many areas of the law most needed in Chicago neighborhoods. The CLN lawyers focus on personal injury, criminal defense, and other issues. The CLN lawyers all average over 20 years of legal experience and are dedicated to helping the Chicago community. The Chicago Legal Network is committed to developing Black lawyers through mentorship and co-representation. So if you were injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or injured on the job, or you need assistance with criminal defense, including driving violations and DUI, check out ChicagoLegalNetwork.com for more information or call 773-912-3545. 773-912-3545.
That's why we shine wherever we go. 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 Lord, Lord. Welcome to the mind of a pothead. On my head, see a young nigga got dressed. We don't give a fuck what the cop said. I'm living a legacy. So even when I die, I am not dead. Nigga, I am not dead. Fuck with me.
Great afternoon to you wonderful people. Welcome to this Friday edition of I Said What I Said. We are live from the What's Center for the Black People Media Studios. Herb Howard, Toussaint Warner here with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. We get together right here with you and discuss many issues that are impacting the Black community, how those issues impact us as individuals, and how they impact us as a collective. And along with your help, we talk through many of these issues in hopes of finding the best solutions for overcoming these obstacles. Again, overcome them as individuals, but more importantly, overcome them as a collective. Thank y'all so very, very much for choosing to be here with us this afternoon. We truly, truly appreciate it. As always, your input is valued. It is certainly appreciated. Anything you want to add to the conversation, feel free to leave it in the comments. We will read through as many of them as possible as we go through. As you all know, this is a relationship Friday here on I Said What I Said. We broach many different aspects of the relationship dynamic, specifically between Black men and women, in hopes of trying to find what it is that ails us in terms of that particular relationship dynamic. We believe that it is the foundation for everything else that we want to do in our community, whether that is agriculture, business, education, security. We believe all those things have to be built on a solid foundation of having strong households, which begins with that particular relationship. So we broach from many different aspects: men's point of view, women's point of views. We've talked to people who would call themselves maybe perhaps playboys or whatnot. We've talked to sex workers. We've talked to anybody that thinks they can add value to this particular conversation. Speaking of that, please take a quick moment to share the conversation. Click that little arrow in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Share it on your personal page. Share it even within your personal network. I'm glad you finally called it, Tamika. Welcome. This is I Said What I Said. It is intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. My name is Herb. His name is Tu. Please take a quick moment to share the conversation on your personal page. Share it even within your personal network. Anyone, absolutely anyone that you think would add value to or find value in this particular conversation, we welcome them to be a part of the discussion. It is our sincere belief that the more like-minded individuals we can get to be a part of the conversation, the better opportunity we have of finding the optimum solutions going forward. Again, this is I Said What I Said. My name is Herb Howard. His name is Tu. Last night, I was watching these two oppositions, and neither of them have a good record. Both of their records, absolutely terrible, completely incompetent, neither of them have shown an ability to perform their duties at a high level. But it was the only thing to watch. And as you sat there watching them compete back and forth, disrespecting their profession at a very low quality performance, I couldn't help but think that one of these opponents is going to actually win. And they're going to become the leader, even though they don't really have the skill set or competency to perform at a high level. Now, ultimately, too, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New York Giants. And I was like, God, this was a terrible fucking football game. They both sucked. They both came in with terrible records, 1-5, 1-4-1. And because they play in the terrible division that they play in, one of them is actually going to come out of this thing as the leader for that particular division. Absolutely crazy. I don't know what you watched last night, but that's what I watched.
Same thing.
Cool.
Same thing. Two white people arguing over the same kind of facts.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But different, I think it's different than who you say played last night, the Jets and the Eagles?
The Eagles and the Giants.
The Eagles and the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the NFL didn't deserve that. Maybe that takes a particular skill set to be or to make it to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in regards to the throes of politics today, I don't know if there is a particular skill set other than having name recognition.
Mm.
And I think in the modicum of how media works, anybody can garner name recognition. To be quite honest, we have recognizable names.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have the credentials to lead a country per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's all you really need, right? Celebrity. We live in a kind of celebrity-driven culture. You know what I mean? And watching that debate last night, man, I just started making jokes about the shit because it just got funny to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just got funny to me. I think that, and I also think, though, it's what we deserve. I think it's exactly what we deserve as a country, not as black people or white people or, any broken down ethnicities. I think with the lack of opportunity that black people have had through the duration of our stay in this country, I think we're an amazing people. Just to be at the level that we at today, I think we're an amazing people. And I think in order to become that amazing people, we kind of had to rely on spirituality and education, right? So we had to ingratiate ourselves in those two things, right? Understanding the vision of God,
Sure,
and understanding the value of information, right? What do they say? Discomfort spawns creativity. You know what I mean? And creativity is a reaction to information. You know what I mean? But I think that in the last maybe 2-3 generations, and not to say it hasn't happened before that, but at least in my understanding, we've become lullabied to sleep in a way that white people have been able to be sleepwalking in America. They can sleepwalk because they're comfortable. We should be uncomfortable all the time. I was just listening to the T.I. album on my way here, and one of the verses is, one of the bars and one of the raps was, "Homie, you was born behind enemy lines.
right,
Ain't no timeouts."
right.
And we think there's a fucking timeout.
I think that we are trying to find that little bit of comfort in the uncomfortable situation. And I think that it would probably behoove us to, instead of seeking out where we can find little pockets of comfort inside all of this discomfort, is to flip the entire circumstances that create the discomfort. And I think that, when we're trying to find people that's to have the status quo, or who don't necessarily blatantly hurt our feelings, or they kind of make us feel a part of something that we aren't really a part of, there's a bit of a comforting there, right? You haven't really addressed shit that I want, but there's a comfort here. And that can be easier than actually creating new circumstances. And it can sometimes even seem like the only option if you find the obstacle to be insurmountable. I personally don't find the obstacle to be insurmountable. I think it is significant. I think it certainly has a lot of resources at its side. But I think that our connectivity, right? If we move as a collective with a singular identity and agenda, I am completely confident that we could flip this thing on its head. Now, it would take a very long time to get the organization done, the commitment, the sacrifice. That is what will take the time. But once we get those things in place, I believe in my heart that the changes that we seek will happen overnight, right? The work that goes into it is what's going to take the time. If we can get to that space, everything that we seek to change in this country will change like seemingly overnight. If we can just get on the same page and be willing for once to flex our collective muscle about any singular idea, any singular agenda. Not one time have we ever been willing to stand up and flex our muscle collectively as a race of people in this country. If black people did that, we could change this whole fucking thing. But we find every single reason to disagree with each other. We find every single reason to say, nah, it's going to be me over the collective. And as long as we do that, because the obstacle is so large, because the enemy is so resourceful, I don't see that we can overcome it. I really, really don't. And so,
at some levels, though, I think that's a false narrative, though. Right?
What is?
I think that there's been several times in our history that we flex collective muscle. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't. At least for me, I don't ever want to make or spew that kind of a narrative because I don't believe that to be true.
You don't believe what?
That we've never flexed our collective muscle. I don't think if we ever didn't flex our collective muscle, we wouldn't be sitting here doing what we're doing right now.
I can feel that.
You know what I mean?
I can feel that. There have been examples of us doing that.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, man, when I think about myself, I think I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And
Sure.
I'm not even being funny. And it's a take on my approach to the world. And I don't mean just being here. I mean my approach to the world. You know, living without fear, living beyond borders, not bowing down or kowtowing to any white ideas. Not white people, any white ideas. You understand? But I think the reason I say we deserve it, here's an interesting thing. That I did this maybe like 10 years ago, man. My sister-in-law invited me to this conversation. It was a conversation about race, and you got to have some context to who my sister-in-law is. Like, my sister-in-law is well-to-do, you know, born and raised in Southern Illinois.
Go Dogs.
Has a very different understanding of blackness than I do, per se. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And she gets to move through a world that isn't privy to most of us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And she invited me to this conversation about race. And there might have been 50 people in the room, and me, my sister-in-law, maybe one other person was actually African-American. Maybe a few were Indian, maybe a few were Hispanic, but the vast majority of the room was white.
Right.
And there was an exercise that they asked us to pull off. And it was like everybody had a little notepad paper, the little memo paper. Mm-hmm. And they was like, when you think of your ethnicity, what comes to mind, right? So the goal of the project was to write down what you think, pass the note cards around, and somebody else anonymously, and somebody else read them and see if we could attach those identities to people in the room.
Right.
So, you know, all of the black answers was like strength, determination. You know, all the things that we kind of attach to that black experience in America. There ain't but 3 of us in the room. It ain't hard to tell who wrote this shit.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But what was most interesting to me about that entire experiment is that you couldn't really you could identify the white ones after a while, but in the beginning I couldn't identify the white ones because there was no real pure understanding to that ethnicity via that experience.
Sure.
And what I thought about in that moment was that, man, that's what it really feels like to be free. I don't even have to think about this shit. You know what I mean? I don't even have to think about this shit. Which puts into perspective the fact that we are behind enemy lines. You must think about this shit because this shit holds this much weight in your existence.
We'll take our first break of the day. When we come back, we'll complete this conversation about our observations from the debate last night, what that means, what this particular time means, and then we will jump into Relationship Friday. Are there gold diggers still? Is that still a term too?
I don't know if that's still a term. I think it's a lifestyle.
That's still a real thing? We're going to get into that conversation and more as we go through. This is I Said What I Said. Herb Howard, Tucson Warner here with you to 3 o'clock. We'll be right back.
WIIFTV-PM.
Shop at Black-owned and operated Solo Beauty, where you are appreciated and respected. Located at 8158 South Cottage Grove, Solo Beauty can supply all of your black hair care needs. Solo Beauty is open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday.
The Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of attorneys that concentrate in many areas of the law most needed in Chicago neighborhoods. The CLN lawyers focus on personal injury, criminal defense, and other issues. The CLN lawyers all average over 20 years of legal experience and are dedicated to helping the Chicago community. The Chicago Legal Network is committed to developing black lawyers through mentorship and co-representation. So if you were injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or injured on the job, or you need assistance with criminal defense, including driving violations and DUI, check out ChicagoLegalNetwork.com for more information or call 773-912-3545. 773-912-3545.
WIFTVPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio. You're listening to I Said What I Said.
Wait, what did you say?
I said you're listening to I Said What I Said.
I just said that.
I know you just said that.
That's what I just said.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Exactly what he just said.
With Herb Howard and Toussaint Werner.
That's about one of the nicest things you've ever said.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
We are back live from the gorgeous What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. This is I Said What I Said. It is intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. My name is Herb Howard. My esteemed co-host, his name is Toussaint Werner. Each and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. we get together right here on What's in It for the Black People Media and discuss black shit. We think this is the blackest conversation in America. It is intellectual thuggery at its finest. Thank y'all so very, very much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. We greatly, greatly appreciate you all making that particular choice here today. We got an interesting choice coming up here November 3rd. Many people have already gone to the polls or sent their ballots in or voted early in some way, shape, or form. I prefer to go on election day. I don't know. It's just something about, I like to get up early, go. It's one right down the street from my crib. Get up early, go, put my thing in, get my little sticker and bounce. So I prefer to go on the day up. We got that interesting decision coming up here too. And what's interesting about this particular election, I haven't heard anything good about either candidate. Like, I've heard this dude ain't shit and this dude ain't him, right? And so I think, like, I ain't heard nobody, not one good thing has been said that I've heard that I found reasonable about any of these people, like either of these two particular candidates. And so I think that, it causes us to think a little bit deeper about what it is that we want, right? And can we seize this moment for some long-term benefit as a collective?
So I think what stands out to me most about this election cycle is how it's kind of exposing the disconnect or the dysfunction in our own households, in our own communities.
Yeah.
I think how it's exposing the gender divide is very interesting. I think it's also about how white supremacy actually works, right? It works because we lack identity, right? Mm-hmm. And it works because we kind of define ourselves through the lens of whiteness in a lot of ways, or at least so in response to whiteness. You know what I mean? So legitimately, there's been a campaign almost, you could say, that's been predicated about black men's level of engagement around voting and around the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And just historically, when you look at that, it's just a fucking lie. It's a flat out lie. Like, the numbers don't reflect that.
No.
Our ideas don't reflect that.
No.
Our households don't reflect that.
No.
But it's interesting, man, and it goes back to that comment that we read on air that Jamil Hill made last week. Mm-hmm. And the sister responded, like, you take the perspectives of really one brother, because Ice Cube isn't even in the wrong, in my opinion. And he never said that, hey, I'm with the Trump campaign. Now, how Trump is manipulating that is something
whatever.
Different. You know what I mean? That's something.
You saw his son tweet out the picture with Cube and who was it? Who was the other person? I forgot. But they
50.
said
It was
Cube and 50. Duh.
And they put Trump.
With
I mean,
the
they're manipulating
on.
it, of course. But how they manipulate it has nothing to do with its original intent.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it was like the comments of one person starts to reflect the ideas of an entire group, an entire segment of the population. That shit is very interesting to me. And when you start to think about that shit, even in the Cube and even in the construct of Cube going to talk to the Trump staff, we never once point out that the motherfuckers he was talking to was working for Trump, and they were black women. Mm-hmm. That doesn't even come to the conversation, right? So they're justified in being employed by this shit. Cube is not justified in going to talk to these people,
right?
right?
Right.
So it's this damn gender kind of disparity that really is blowing my mind about this election cycle. It's only blowing my mind because you start to see visibly how white supremacy leverages
Right. There it is.
strategies to create oppositional understandings internally. And the reason that shit works is because we are devoid of identity. We're looking to them for approval in a lot of ways.
Right. I think that when you are looking at like the fact that that fits the narrative is what I'm trying to tell you. Like that fits the narrative, so it's easy to accomplish that because it fits the narrative so well. That's something that you can pull off without anybody really questioning it. I think that if it was something that didn't really fit the narrative, then that's not something that you would see. But because it fits the narrative that black men ain't shit, and that's the target that you are trying to denigrate, then you can go ahead and do that, and everybody will kind of come to the same conclusion or come to your aid on that particular.
But it also speaks to how fast those narratives can be shifted and controlled, right, and created, because that's not always been the narrative. It's not always been the narrative inside of our community that black man ain't shit. That's not been the narrative for the duration.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So in 1 or 2 generations, you can start to see these ideas shift and change.
Right.
Because they dominate the conversation. We are in response to their narratives. We are responding to the narratives that they create for us.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So that speaks volumes. And it's not, we always address conversations from a perspective as if black people's existence started like post 1967, 69, 65, the 60s in general. And that's just not true, right? We've been here since 1619, and some say before that. There's an argument to say black people got here before 1619. But legitimately, we speak about our whole entire experience on this planet or in this country as if the shit started in 1960, right? But if you go anything pre-1960, that understanding of all of those narrative shifts.
Right.
All of those narrative shifts. Like there's even the conversation around feminism and the black male toxicity and what's that shit? Hyper masculinity and all that shit. Right. When you read like the sociologist versions of that shit, black men weren't even seen as real men. And this is in the sociological studies. Right? So how could they have any of this toxic masculinity when they wasn't even seen as masculine in the first place? But it's like in 1 or 2 generations, those entire narratives can get shifted. And those narratives can get shifted because we're not writing our own narrative. And the reason we aren't writing our own narrative is because we don't have our own identity.
What's most interesting about that is that, you know, once that narrative is told to us long enough, it becomes the accepted norm as truth, right? It becomes the actual accurate telling of the story. And you can tell when it becomes the accurate, or at least the accepted, I'll say, not accurate, the accepted version of the story when those amongst your own group begin to tell that same story, right? And you know, continue to expound upon that very same narrative. I think that is when you can tell, like, oh, this shit is really working for real, right? It ain't just affecting them, it's affecting us and how we feel about each other and then how we interact with each other. Ultimately, that's gonna prevent us from doing anything that we want to do, right? And so whether it's brothers talking shit about sisters talking shit about brothers, that's something that we gotta get away from. The difference here in terms of the nuance is that the attack on black men is a direct result of the plan of white supremacy, right? That's a necessary part of it. And so when we become complicit in it, whether that's brothers killing brothers, whether that's sisters putting brothers down, that becomes a problem that becomes almost insurmountable. Thus, we have Relationship Fridays. And so when we come back, we're going to start this week's conversation on Relationship Fridays. Are there gold diggers? Are those just women? Are there men gold diggers? What does that look like from both sides? We want to hear your perspective and more. This is I Said What I Said. We'll be back after this.
WIFTBPM. Maze Jackson.
If you could make up a social media holiday, what would it be?
Randy said National Don't Let No One Put You Down Day.
No one. What you gonna do? So when they say something crazy, you slap them?
Be like Maze said. Randy said a Jukathon Day.
Man, we about 60 years old. I be done had a heart.
You gotta get your heart rate up.
Okay, not that far.
All right, Mario said my favorite one. My friends and I do what we call National Call Off from Work Day.
As a business owner, I don't. You don't like that? Yeah, I don't like that.
Because I'm the boss of this thing.
We got Marcus Garvey Day from Remy too.
Oh, Marcus Garvey Day. All right, what will we do on Marcus Garvey Day?
Call off from work.
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. That would be great. Okay?
Yeah, right. Every black holiday has something to do with calling off from work.
You're cool. I'm out.
About National Join a Positive Black Organization Day, because I don't want to be recruited. I don't want to be recruited and the brothers be like, thank you. Thank you. How about National Tell White People the Truth Day? Tell them how you really feel.
You can't handle the truth.
Why don't we call that National Black People Get Locked Up Day?
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Hello.
The most dangerous show in the morning.
WIFTVPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio. You're listening to I Said What I Said.
Wait, what did you say?
I said you're listening to I Said What I Said.
I just said that.
I know you just said that.
That's what I just said.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Exactly what he just said.
With Herb Howard and Toussaint Werner.
That's about one of the nicest things you've ever said.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
We are back live from the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. This is I Said What I Said. Toussaint Werner, Herb Howard here with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. We designate Fridays for relationship talks. We are trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with the relationship in the black community. Black men and women seemingly have lost ground in terms of those relationship dynamics and building strong households from a place that where that was once the foundation. That was once really all the fuck we had in our community. And I think that because that was all we had, we kind of worked hard on that. Were there some issues in the black household, in times past? Absolutely, right? Though they're numerous, right? And that's a conversation for a different day. But they were there and they were unified. And we've seen they gotten away from that. So we're trying to figure out how the fuck do we get back to it. And I think that one of the problems is they have become so very transactional in terms of what am I getting from this? What are you getting from this? And I think that that's fine on certain levels. But when it becomes this purely financially motivated situation, I think that it's really hard to find the morality, the spirituality, and ultimately the productivity out of said relationship. So conversation today is gold diggers. First of all, can men be gold diggers?
I'm sure they can. The entirety of the conversation. So you came up with that concept of gold digging, right? I just prefer to use the word transactional.
Sure.
You know what I mean,
it's provocative.
Yeah, I know.
Gets the people going.
But even to that point, though, I'm gonna read this quick comment. It says, "Was it okay for black women? Was it okay when black women were denigrated? Even the title of your show today denigrates and vilifies a stigma of black women." And my response
does the title say something about women?
My response to that, and I specifically said, and I said, how does gold digging when ain't no gold to be found denigrate black women? And I'm waiting on the response because I don't understand that statement.
Good.
You know what I mean?
You know what? I'm glad you read it. I knew that's immediately where the conversation was going to go. I knew that was immediately like, oh, they go to attack on black women. So the first thing I want to do is state unequivocally that I personally feel like gold digging can happen from anybody, right? Brothers can be under the same act, right? Using sisters for this, staying at their house, driving their cars, eating all kind of shit, right? So I think it can go both ways. Now, why y'all jump to that conclusion that it was about women, I don't really know.
And that's part of the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so let me say this. We invited a sister up here today, and the sister canceled on us. Because I hate having this conversation with just you, dog. I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? Because when it comes to the forefront, it seems as if just the male perspective is kind of being heralded, rather than being a nuanced conversation. And I can't speak from a woman's perspective. You understand what I'm saying? So we invited the sister. She didn't show up. But what we're going to do, we're going to open up the phone lines in the second hour. Right. And when we open up the phone lines in the second hour, I implore every woman within earshot of our voice to give us a damn call. Because then we can have a real dialogue. Right. But I think that and I always say this in every conversation we've ever had, that there's a level of spirituality that has to start taking place in our understanding of life. Right. We got to get back to the spirit. We got to get back to the source. We got to get back to the origin. I was listening to a Salim conversation from a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember the guy's name. But it was very impactful. I done went back to that damn conversation like 3-4 different times. Because he talks about the value of this experience of life being solely based in finding happiness, right? And he talks about that's a calling. It's not something that you're guaranteed to have. It's a calling. You got to be called to reach this level of euphoria per se, right? And he talks about that experience being rooted in the understanding of self. You know what I mean? And I think that America, by its very nature, creates this very transactional set of values that you wrap your values into material goods. And when you wrap your values into material goods, then that intrinsic value never shows the fuck up, right? And I think in a lot of ways, that is the culture, right? And while we're here, let me say this too. I want to apologize publicly to Ruthie Moore because of a statement I said this morning that she took out of context, but they ran into this conversation.
Okay.
Right? And they were having this conversation about, Maze was talking about some of the things he did to court his wife. And then Ruthie said, well, that's cool, but that ain't what I'm into. Why not just bust me down a check on my school loans? Right? And the conversation went on and went on and went on. And they were basically justifying the school loans as being as, what's the word I'm looking for? As valid as whatever moves Maze was making to court his wife.
Right.
Right. And they're just not. Right. And the reason they're just not is because whatever Maze was doing to court his wife, whatever he was doing to court his wife was out the goodness of Maze's heart because it's what Maze wanted to do.
Right.
Right. When you change that conversation context and say, hey, well, this is what I want you to do, then now we negotiate. Now we negotiate, and they're not the same.
No,
they just not the same. But even still, I still want to apologize publicly to Ruthie because she took something I said out of context. It was not intended for you. It was about the whole social standard. The entire social standard is transactional. Men, women, whatever. Now, here's the nuance to that transactional behavior.
Sure.
There's also a narrative created to what a real man or a man is in a patriarchal society. And we don't reap the same benefits from those transactions. Because if you do, then you definitely ain't no goddamn man. By the very same narrative that creates the world that you engage in.
So, Ready Rock came with a comment that I thought was quite interesting. And she says that, I think transactional mindset comes from wanting relationships of the past. Men were taking care of all their families. And I find that interesting because while that is true, right, it also came with a lot of other things from the other side of that relationship. And I think that as we moved further away from those times and this kind of independence and like woman power and like all these types of things have kind of come into the fold, then a lot of the other things that came along with the dude just taking care of the whole family have kind of fallen by the wayside. Now, it can be a chicken or the egg question. Which one came first? Did women have to, start to take over heads of households first, or did the lack of doing the things that was happening back then happen first, right? And so I think, like, okay, we can get back to that space, but can either of the groups find themselves back to that space? Can women find themselves back to that space where their expectation was you're gonna be at home all day, you're gonna pop babies out, you're gonna cook, you're gonna clean, you're gonna fuck, you're gonna like, and that's it. Like that's what you do. You don't question me about shit. I'm making all the decisions around this motherfucker because I'm paying. Like, I don't think that women are trying to go back to that space either. And so to go back to one half of that space without being saying, okay, I'm willing to go back to the other half of that space, I don't know how realistic that is.
But I don't even think that's a space that we've ever really been at.
I think we have.
No, not as a culture. No, not as a people. We've never had that luxury, right? Be clear about that. It's always taken everybody in our family to survive, just to survive, right?
Oh, listen, the role that the woman played at that time was absolutely critical. It was essential. But the dude didn't, like, home was just some shit he came to go to sleep.
So
again, and have sex
and goes back to the statement of the narrative I just spoke about a minute ago. We kind of start our history at like 1960 some shit. That ain't real. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So if we go beyond baby boomers, there was zero, none, no wealth in the black community, right? So in order to fucking survive, it took all hands on deck, right? So this idea of I'm gonna go do this while you do this, those gender roles that we kind of fall into,
right,
is complete bullshit.
Okay.
One generation of our people ever had the luxury to move through society like that. But that becomes the very standard. Why? Because that's the very standard of the patriarchal system that creates the same narrative for this transactional behavior.
So you're saying the load was carried on both sides. Like
it has to be, or you don't survive. It has to be, or you don't survive. Because we don't have no fucking wealth. And we don't have no fucking wealth now. Right? So I played the video the other day, the sister saying, man, I can't date nobody unless he making 200 or better. She might have said more than 200.
Right.
But it was at least 200 to start. Well, if you do the numbers, and you 30, the sister was 30-something. That generation don't got no money, sweetie. Right? So, and the vast majority of us don't have no money. Out of the 14 million black households, 7 million of them are below poverty line. Half are below poverty line. Right? To be in the top, we talk about this all the time. The top 1% of us you only need like 130 or something to be in the top 1%. And that's in income. When it gets to wealth, that means total assets. All you need is like 300. And you saying I gotta make 200 a year for you to be considered? That's some silly shit. Now, I don't personally believe that to be her truth, right? But I also know that there's a value attached to how media works. And you start spewing these ideas and it becomes standardized, which is why when I was a shorty, I could look at the dope boy in my neighborhood who had the Cutlass with the Billups rims and make that a goal of mine.
Yeah.
Right? I want that Cutlass, right? Now that car might cost $2,500.
Oh yeah.
Right? The rims probably cost more than the car.
For sure.
Right? That's an attainable goal. But in my child's generation, he ain't looking at no Cutlasses.
No.
Because the narrative has been shifted. Why? Because capitalism is now shifting too. So those ideas shift along with it. So now that Cutlass is some bullshit. I got to have the Murcielago, the Bentley, you understand what I'm saying? Like, think about them. You're a little bit younger than me, but legitimately, the Isuzu Rodeo was the Isuzu Trooper was a car that the highest level entertainers was speaking about as a goal. Think about that shit, right? Now, just 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't like the Isuzu Rodeo or the Isuzu Trooper was the top of the line car then. Right. But this was an attainable goal. As capitalism shifts, so does those desires.
Yeah. People used to be excited about riding, like even like a little bit after that, people would be excited about riding, Navigators and Explorers, and you could see those shits in videos. Now, if it ain't a Lambo, if it ain't a Ferrari, it ain't a part of the lexicon. It's not accepted as like you really doing nothing right now. So I think that becomes a different thing, right? And I think that social media plays a huge role in that, right? It was one thing when you didn't fucking see Lambos, and so you heard it and you saw it and whatever. But when you open your phone and now all these pictures got people in front of these fucking Lambos and driving these Lambos, now it's like, oh shit, it's a real thing. It's still not a fucking real thing. When the last time you seen one come down your block, right? You know what I'm saying? But that don't change the aspiration for it, and then ultimately impact the decisions you make towards getting it. And I think that our voice, like whether that's our inner voice or our collective voice, has to be louder than the bullshit. But the bullshit is very, very, very loud and is all consuming, and it's talking to us in a way that it's never been able to talk to us before. We talk about being able to go direct to consumer now in terms of like a business owner or an entrepreneur, but the companies, these large companies, can go direct to consumer in a way that's never been able to happen before too, in terms of the ads, how they drive your ideas, how they drive your behavior, right? And I think that all has a huge impact, especially when you talk about the big picture over time.
So again, it just goes back to the narrative, right? And we always start the show, we always often talk about the quote from Neely Fuller: until you fully understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything you think you understand will only confuse you. Right? So in a lot of ways, man, my generation and every generation after have kind of identified with a white supremacist value set. It just is what it is, right? And we got to be honest about that. So because we identify with these same white supremacist value sets, we treat each other in that same vein. And in that system of oppression, you have no intrinsic value. So unconsciously, we treat each other as if we have no intrinsic value.
Yeah. No, we don't, but it's the self-love, bro. Like how I'm gonna see any intrinsic value in you when you look just like me and I don't see it in myself, right? It's not really possible. I don't see you as really shit, and I don't really see myself as shit until I have this, that, or the third, or somebody else views me as big and shit. And if I don't view myself that way, there is zero chance of me being able to view you that way or anybody else I'm in a relationship with. And What values do we have? What things do we deem to be important? What things do we deem to be signs of success? Right? Is that a happy, healthy household? Is that a happy, healthy mental state of being? No. What fucking shoes you got on? What fucking car you drive? What fucking house do you live in? Those are the only 3 things that can make you fucking valuable here. All the rest of that shit you're talking about, I'm spiritual. I got a great sense of humor.
I got character. I'm not gonna leave you.
Nah.
Those don't matter.
No.
Don't matter.
It does not matter. What have you done for me lately, right? And that's Eddie Murphy from Eddie Murphy Raw. That's what's that, 89, 88? Eddie Murphy Raw? When he talking about the Janet Jackson song, right? What have you done for me lately? Like, that was the fucking anthem, right? That's it, right? And Eddie Murphy said then, like, I'm a material girl in a material world. You ain't got no money. You can't get no pussy, right? That's 89. Shit ain't really changing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of is what it is. If anything, it's gotten worse.
So again, this is very male driven, very masculine energy driven. And when you start thinking about it from the very narrative of what it means to be male, specifically based in the ideal based in patriarchy, power is always going to be seductive. Right? Mm-hmm. And what does power look like in America? Mm-hmm. It looks like capital.
Yes.
Right? And if you think from that perspective that, 96% of all of the wealth in America is in the hands of white folks? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck is the power?
Them.
It's just that simple. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But we don't identify that as being identifying with a white supremacist patriarchal idea set. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and my mother and my sister, I was privy to these conversations. But we got to be real, right? I don't think that no mother in her right mind is going to tell a daughter to be with no man. I ain't going to say in her right mind. I'm going to say I've never heard no mother-daughter conversation in regards to relationship identify the value of a man exceeding finance or what he's accomplished. Mm-hmm. I've never heard it. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
get you a man that has these things.
And so then what we got to be real about also is, like, when we talk about, well, that's the white supremacist values and aspirations. After fucking a while, what you say all the time, right? About putting cream and sugar in coffee. After a while, that shit ain't coffee no more, bro. So we got to be honest about this thing and say, well, at this point, is it just fucking white supremacy aspirations and constructs? That's our shit too. We under the same fucking act. The problem is we don't have the access.
This is a great comment from Ready Rock. She says, I hear men roast men daily. Hold on. It says, I hear men roast men daily over whatever they have not acquired. Many women still follow what men do. Be clear about this. Those same men that roast men daily over what they have and have not acquired have adapted to that same white supremacist ideology.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's that same ideology. Which is why you'll risk your motherfucking life to have the spoils of wealth in America. It's why you will risk your motherfucking life to have XYZ car, to have XYZ chain, to have XYZ car. Yeah. And that same man won't raise his goddamn children.
Right.
Because that has no value.
Right.
What this white man told me was value is the only value.
That's the value.
It's the only value. I'm gonna plant seeds all across this goddamn city. But I ain't gonna water none of them. Because I'm already verified because I got this car.
In fact, like, I got all these seeds around the city with all these different women because we both see value the fucking same.
Exactly the same.
All my baby mamas saw the same fucking value in me. They all saw the same shit. He drive this car. He dressed like this. He got this kind of money. He can take me there. He can take me there. He can take me there. Yes, he can come in my pussy.
Period. And I'm not exonerating like men.
Ain't shit, huh?
You say what?
Can't be like they baby daddies ain't shit.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get to know him.
Yeah. And that's kind of the context of the conversation. No way, shape, or form am I exonerating men. You the same motherfucker.
Same shit, bro.
You the same motherfucker.
Same
and then
shit.
wonder why we can't win. Right? The very narrative, well, your value set is centered in material bullshit and material ideas. So by the very nature of how capitalism works, is you gonna keep chasing that. It's like the dope fiend. Yeah. Right? You get that heroin high that first time and it's great. Yeah. But you never get that shit again.
No.
Right?
No.
But you need the heroin just to survive.
Yes.
Just to get along.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You never gonna find that euphoric feeling again.
It's not
Which
real.
is why in most people's relationship, and this is a conversation I had with my cousin before, that first genuine relationship you have, you probably 15, 14. That shit feel different than the rest of them.
Yeah.
Cause them was the only time that motherfucker came to you because they genuinely liked you.
It was pure.
It was pure.
It was pure as fuck. It was pure as hell. right? You liked her, she liked you. Y'all thought each other was cute. Y'all like to be around each
I just
other.
wanna be
Y'all
around
laughed
you.
at goofy shit.
That's
Y'all
it.
sit on the fucking swing for hours at a time. Y'all talk on the phone saying dumb shit like you hang up, no, you hang up, no, you hang up, right? And it had nothing to do with shit. She might have liked to rattle in the back of your bike or some goofy shit like that, but it was pure as fuck, right? Now it's like, what boxes do I have checked off on this success list? What boxes does this person have checked off on this success list? And if those boxes match, cool. If those boxes don't match, fuck it. And the problem is, very rarely on that list do you see things like spirituality, morality, family values, any of that kind of shit, right? It's all surface bullshit that won't get you through a rainstorm.
If you are a woman looking for a spouse to raise a family with, you want someone who is capable. Hold on, it moved again. Hold on, let me find that again. You want someone who is capable or of, if not already, financially stable. That's not white. That's security, stability, future planning for your family. If all of the wealth in America is in the hands of white people, 90 whatever fucking percent, 97%. So let's break this shit down. It's white folks and everybody else. We are into everybody else, right? So that's 97% in their hands. That 3% is broken down by everybody else, right? Of that everybody else population, we are the largest population, which means, and when you get to the real breakdowns, out of that everybody else population, we have the least of that 3%, but still the largest population. Right, which kind of breaks down to the understanding of what it means to be in a caste system. Right. So if you're in that caste system, you only have 3% of the wealth, and you have the least of in that 3%. Where do you find financial security? Again, if the top 1% of us is making 120, and I don't know what world y'all live in,
don't exist.
But 120 ain't shit in America in 2020.
I want to get to a psychological aspect of this thing, because Beulah raises a point that is valid, but I want to address it. She says, did white people really tell us that chains were valuable, or did they just market them? Wealthy white people don't even wear them, right? She's, again, 100% correct. Here's the psychological piece on that. We wear that kind of shit, right? We put the rims on the cars, we wear the chains because we're trying to find a value. Right, we're trying to find a value that we've never had. They don't do that shit because they were born with that value already.
I'm trying to be seen
I'm
in
not
the world that
trying
don't
to
see
do
me.
shit. I have this money, right? I'm trying to make somebody think I have this money. So there's a psychological aspect that is created that we can't ignore when we say, well, why the fuck are y'all getting the rims and the chains? There's a psychological thing that is happening there. It's not like they're not doing that. They're coming from two totally different spaces, right? When you're already accepted, when you're already seen as valuable and worthwhile, you ain't trying to convince nobody that you're valuable and worthwhile. That's some shit that we have to do, and that's some shit that we've learned to do. We don't have to do it, and I wish we didn't do it. But that is some shit that we've learned to do to try and be seen as valuable or worthwhile.
It's trying to be seen in the world of motherfuckers who don't see you.
Yep.
Right? It goes back to the same statement I made about going into that experiment with my sister-in-law. Right? When a white person put down what defined them ethnically, there's no real answer. Because I don't got to think about this shit. I run all this shit. We rule all this shit. Everywhere I go, I'm valued. Everybody else in the room has to create a value set. It just is what it is. So, and we got to be real. We respond to that shit. Yeah. Right? But now I give credence because we are 400 plus years of nothingness. Right? So the minute you get a little bit of somethingness, and it's a step-by-step, it's a baby step kind of conversation. So at this phase in our maturation, from an overall standpoint, we're moving at the speed of light. You know what I'm saying? Like we've made achievements and created pathways for growth and success that probably could not be achieved at this rate by any other group of people, right? But we are living in this specific sect of time. And in this specific sect of time, white supremacy is shifting. It's shifting because it has to. It has to shift because they are losing ground, right? I say all the time that after kids born after 2005 will be the last time white people will be the dominant population in America. Knowing that and them wanting to control and maintain power, they got to shift the conversation. They got to shift it because they can't keep up. It's the ISIS paper, Francis Quest Wilson. You can't out birth rate anybody else. So now, in order for me to maintain my power, I got to shift the conversation. I got to shift the narrative, right? And what are they doing? Gay is at the top of the totem pole for black masculinity now. Why is gay is at the top of the totem pole? Well, because gay motherfuckers don't produce children. That's why. Why is drugs marketed in our community way? Because after a while, drugs gonna make your ass impotent, and you can't produce children. Prison. If your ass is in prison, you can't produce children.
Right.
It just is what it is. If your women stop valuing you, then goddamn it, guess what? You can't produce children, and we still maintain power. Period. That's all it is.
It ain't that deep.
It ain't. It's that deep if you ain't paying attention.
The plan is that deep. The objective is very simple. Like the objective was set a long time ago. You talk about people just going around the globe conquering land, realizing that every time we create an offspring with any of these people from these other lands, that offspring looks like them. That told them something very, very early in their existence. We got to do something about this. We got to be able to control this thing. We have to be able to limit how this thing works, because if it doesn't, we're going to be extinct. And when you talk about survival being our most basic instinct, everything else around that in terms of what they've gone about doing to ensure that they survive makes perfect sense.
And we're openly us, because we don't have a goddamn narrative, because we don't have an identity, in my personal opinion, we keep shifting the fucking goalpost to reach their standard. Right?
Yeah.
So we start, even in here, right? We got the sex worker come on, and everything's justified because it makes money. There's no moral aptitude associated with nothing. It's all justified as long as it makes money. As long as you, and really,
that's the American way.
But
that's how America was founded. Slavery was justified because it made money.
But we always justify shit based on capital. But capital is the very anchoring of white supremacy.
That's what America was founded on.
It's what it's found on.
Like everybody was okay with slavery because of the boatload, no pun intended, the boatloads of money that was coming in, right? Fuck it, pun intended. That's the reason it was deemed acceptable. That's the reason so many people turned a blind eye to it. Say, "Oh, I'm not racist," and that's kind of bugs what they're doing to them people. But we're going to the bank with this shit, and so that continues to be the way. And the thing is, once we became theoretically free, symbolically free, then we wanted to assimilate ourselves into that same race. How fast can I ascend this capitalism, this ladder of capitalism, right? How fast can I do that, as opposed to saying, okay, now that we have this monicum of freedom, why don't we just not do that shit? Why don't we not play that fucking game? How can we go about working as a collective to ensure that all of us can come up here, as opposed to they open the gates and then everybody take off on their own individual race? Like, nah, fuck that. We're gonna sit right here and figure this thing out. Do we even want to run this fucking race?
But I think that goes back to your statement. Your original statement is like the white man's life is cold, and you didn't say it like that, but you always kind of reference that, right? The psychological ramifications of being less than, right? So you always chasing an idea. You know what I mean? You're always chasing an idea, but in this very moment in time, like, I think we're gonna work our way to oblivion if we don't change our value sets. You know what I mean? And I think we are changing our value sets right now, but I think in the wrong direction, right? So you get a WAP, or you get a Jay-Z for that matter. You know what I mean? Like, we justify selling crack because, well, shit, you made it.
Yeah.
We justify selling pussy because, well, shit, you made it.
Right.
No. And it goes back to the statement I always make about, and this is a nuanced conversation. Be clear about that, right? It's a nuanced conversation because we are here, right? And when you are here, you got to deal with whatever you got to deal with where you are.
We got to deal with the circumstances that you're in.
You got to deal with wherever, but the paradigm is shifting.
Right.
And as the paradigm shifts, I'm afraid of what the end game looks like.
I understand where we are. What I'm talking about is where the North Star must be. Right? What is guiding how we behave, where we are? That is what we kind of have to shift. We got to take a break. When we come back, the phone lines will be open to you. 872-259-7474. 872-259-7474. Want to hear from you guys. Brothers, sisters, want to hear from all of y'all. As always, your input is welcome. It is valued. It is certainly appreciated. This is I Said What I Said. Herb Howard, Toussaint Warner. We'll be right back.
WIFTV PM. Chicago Famous with Mike Love and Diz.
the destined legend himself, Leon Rogers.
Yeah.
What's going on, Playboy?
Man, listen, honored to be here with radio legends, man. Two brothers I looked up for and patted my success.
You walked away from your day job and you went straight in the
Man, brother, first time somebody called me to do the gig, they was like, hey, I got my grandmama's 85-year-old birthday party. She's turning 85. She has a brain tumor. I mean, now she's not going to be able to hear because she's in a coma, but she'll be laying in the room, and we just want the good vibes. Well, what is it? $75. We need you to do an hour. I'm there because of the passion. I wanted to do the comedy. So I quit. But when you quit that job, and the job I had was decent. My father, every young black man should have a dad or a father figure in his life.
Yes.
When I say he went off on me.
My son works.
When I told him I quit to do comedy, my mom, mamas is always like, well, that's good, baby. You spread your wings. You realizing what God wants you to do.
Right.
My father like, you got to be the dumbest son of a bitch in the world. I can't believe you came from my ball sack. $65,000 a year. Me and your mama combined only make 80. You dumb mother. I mean, going off. Like, me and my pops actually kind of fell out.
Old school black fathers, old school mindset. They came up working. They know how hard it is.
Hands, knuckles, black. Hands look like he worked at the steel mill, like he was dipping them in the lava. So, he pissed. My hands manicured.
He's super cool and he know kung fu.
I'm clean. I work on computers.
Drives a $5,000 car and wears a $100 suit.
Right.
He like, I'm out here getting lung poisoning from inhaling all these steel mill fumes and touching people's mail. Look at my hands. I can't even pick up a fork and knife. Your mama got to cut my food for me. And you want to quit to do some damn comedy. He hell.
Chicago Famous, 3 to 6, Monday through Friday, right here on What's in It for the Black People Media.
Maze Jackson.
If you could make up a social media holiday, what would it be?
Randy said national don't let no one put you down day.
No one. What you gonna do? So when they say something crazy, you slap them?
He like me said. Randy said a Jukathon day.
Man, we're about 60 years old. I be done had a heart.
You gotta get your heart rate up.
Okay, not that far.
All right, Mario said my favorite one. My friends and I do what we call National Call Off from Work Day.
As a business owner, I don't.
You don't like that, yeah?
I don't like that.
Because I'm the boss of this family.
We got Marcus Garvey Day from Remy too.
Oh, Marcus Garvey Day. All right, what will we do on Marcus Garvey Day?
Call off from work.
I'm going to need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. That would be great. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Every black holiday has something to do with calling off from work.
You're cool. I'm out.
How about National Join a Positive Black Organization Day? Because I don't want to be recruited. I don't want to be recruited and the brothers be like, thank you. Thank you. How about National Tell White People the Truth Day? Tell them how you really feel.
You can't handle the truth.
Why don't we call that National Black People Get Locked Up Day?
I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life.
Hello.
The most dangerous show in the morning.
I don't want to be recruited and the brothers be like, thank you. Thank you. How about National Tell White People the Truth Day? Tell them how you really feel.
You can't handle the truth.
Why don't we call that National Black People Get Locked Up Day?
Welcome to the mind of a pothead.
The most dangerous show in the morning.
I'm living a legacy. So even when I die, I am. That's why we shine wherever we go. We shine wherever we go. We shine
You can't handle the truth.
Why don't we call that National Black People Get Locked Up Day?
Welcome to the mind of a.
And we are back. We are live from the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. This is I Said What I Said. Herb Howard Tucson. I want to here with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Thank y'all so much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. It is Friday. On Fridays, we get into relationships. So, let's hop into it, brother. Look. I'm trying to, I want to, again, it's always difficult for me and you to have this conversation, right, with just us. And again, that's why we open the phone lines to you, 872-259-7474, because it is both ways, right? You do see a lot of brothers playing the same game. Like, what can I get for me out of this particular relationship? But I think that it has become this accepted way for a lot of women to live their life, right? To just like, oh, yeah, this is what I do. I'm cute, I'm cool. People want to talk to me. People want to spend time with me. People want to fuck me. So I can get paid off of this shit. And whether that is Instagram or OnlyFans, or that's just kind of how I move about my life and the energy I kind of carry myself with, or the transactional approach I take to all these relationships, it's become acceptable in a way that I don't know, like, how you can turn somebody away from that, right? If all I got to do is look cute, and people gonna buy me this shit I need to look cute, and people gonna like, I don't know how you convince somebody that the better thing to do is to build community. Like, it's not as glitzy, it's not as glamorous, it's not as, yeah. I don't know how you go about doing that, bro. For real.
I don't know if that's even a conversation though.
And that's on both sides.
I don't know if the conversation is the better thing to do is to build community.
Okay, what's the conversation?
I think the better thing to do is build internal understanding of value, right? To build a love of self. To build a love of self.
Okay,
right.
That's the start.
To have a belief in yourself that those outside entities don't create your value set. Because when you operate in that spirit, right, you don't need those things to create value for you, and you move through the world in a different manner. Community will flow from that because it's going to be your natural essence. Because people become more valuable to you than things.
Right. I think that's absolutely where it has to start. What I'm saying is, I think it's so fucking conflicted that I don't think people really see the difference there, right? I don't think that a person's like walking around like, nah, it ain't the this that makes me. It ain't the car, it ain't the house, it ain't the bag, it ain't the shoes, it ain't the whatever. Like, I think by and large, people who live by that kind of philosophy, they don't really view themselves as not loving themselves, right? They think that they are loving the fuck out of themselves, right? And they finessing the games. They love themselves so much that they're going to finesse the game to be able to do it. And I don't know how you fucking turn that around. That's philosophically.
Part of how the dynamic works. Mm-hmm. It creates your self-identity and then tells you what you need to fulfill it.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Which is why this conversation is always
it works
new.
well.
Which it's fucking it's
works
like
well.
the internet is undefeated.
Yes.
Right? But it's just like the internet too. Mm-hmm. In order to defeat the shit, you got to unplug from it. As long as you tuned into the shit, you gonna respond how it wants you to respond. It just is what the fuck it is. Think about how memes work, right? Memes specifically.
Sure.
Memes usually have about, at most, 3 sentences.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Motherfuckers make entire arguments off a fucking meme. Right? Not because they truthful, not because they factual, because they easy to identify and they always in your fucking face. That's why TV is so goddamn prevalent. TV tells you what to think. It shows you the images that you attach to it. Yeah. That's why you'll watch TV for 8 hours a day and won't read a book for 30 fucking minutes, because the book requires some level of work. Your mind has to work a little differently, right? And what white supremacy knows is that as long as I make this shit easy, you gonna accept it. You want to eat easy, eat this cheap-ass McDonald's every day, it's gonna kill you, but it's easy. It's easier than sitting your ass in front of a stove. It's gonna kill you, but it's easy. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what it is. This journey ain't easy.
It's the American way,
This journey ain't easy, which is why my man that Celine was talking to said, you got to be called. It ain't for everybody. You got to be called. But when you are called, you so easily recognize the difference. And these there's what's the word? It's in the Bible. It's a concept between heaven and hell. Purgatory. The concept of being lost in nothingness. When I look at the vast majority of our community, man, I had this conversation before. Like we kind of wallowing in depression. We wallowing in depression because we in this goddamn paradigm that thrives on materialism, but we don't have access to the materialism. Right? So when the whole context of the value set is based in materialism, you don't have no fucking value. And while you think about the black male suicide rate being the fastest growing. Why? Because in a materialistic patriarchal system, the vast majority of us never gonna reach manhood per that definition.
So Raymond referenced Social Dilemma. Raymond, we've talked about that probably a couple weeks ago and encouraged everybody to go watch it. You should absolutely watch it in terms of how social media is influencing us. King Salim says they've fallen in love with their mask, and I think that's true on so many fucking levels, right? The mask, I didn't really love what's under it, right? When I put the mask on, whether the mask is the car I drive, the clothes I wear, yada, 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 the people I hang with, right? That mask feels better than my truth. For whatever reason, I didn't learn to love that person. And so I fall in love with this other thing. But now I don't even know how to get away from the other thing. I don't even know where my actual self is. And I think that manifests itself in many, many, many forms, right? Like it could be whether you're talking about like makeup. Like I can't leave the house until I put on 7 pounds of makeup, right? And I'm not trying to offend nobody because I just want to wear makeup. Cool, do your thing, wear your shit, right? But there's also a reason for that. Or it could be things like alcoholism, like why you want to have a fucking drink every day, right? What is that you're trying to cover up? What is that you're trying to get away? I think it manifests itself in many, many forms, right? So it ain't just one to like call out this person or call out that person. I think in some way, shape, or form, the vast majority of us do it, right? Myself included, right? I joke around like, oh yeah, I like to have a drink. Why the fuck you like to have a drink so much? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what was wrong with your current state of thinking, right? That now you want to go have a fucking drink. And I'm like, yeah, ain't nothing wrong with having a drink or two on any given fucking day, right? But ain't it though? Like, is there something that you're trying to like avoid, get away from? I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it manifests in many, many ways. I don't think nobody's really devoid of the shit.
It does manifest in many different ways, right? But I think love is at a premium now, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the vast majority of us never, ever, ever experience love. Never, ever, ever experience it.
Okay.
Right? And I think that because of that, because we don't find love, we kind of seek we seek acceptance. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that as long as we are rooted in that kind of a identity, because that is where our identity is wrapped into at this moment, acceptance from an oppressor at that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Our future is looking dim.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a shift in the paradigm that's happening. Mm-hmm. So that little bit of wealth that we've been able to equate since the baby boomer generation, and we've kind of been riding the wave on up until now, is about to dissipate. We're about to walk into the largest wealth transfer in American history, right? And we not included in that conversation.
No.
Right? So in a lot of ways, the motherfucking story is on remix at this point.
So here's the thing, too. Whether we want to or not, right? Whether we choose to willingly find a new paradigm, right? Find a new way of living. We're going to be forced to. We're going to get to that space. Right now, few of us who are able to maintain some lifestyle where, okay, at least I can pay my bills and feed myself. Right, cool. But as a collective, we're going to be forced into that space if we don't start to play this game differently. Now, me personally, I would rather choose that lane when I still have some control over how far I have to go into it, or when I have to go into it, or how I have to be brought into it, as opposed to it being no choice. Somebody on here made a comment earlier that invention is the mother of invention is necessity.
It's necessity.
You know what I'm saying? And so whether we choose that lane or that lane is chosen for us, that day is going to come. I would prefer we kind of design what it's actually going to look like as opposed to have someone else design that for us as a collective. And again, will there be a percentage of us who are able to maintain some semblance of the status quo or some sense of normalcy in terms of our lifestyle? Sure. But as a collective, fuck no. Fuck no. And I would like for us to kind of be more in control of that destination or that outcome.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Right. But again, it takes ownership, right? It takes ownership, right? It takes ownership of your identity. Mm-hmm. It takes ownership of the process of learning to love yourself. It takes ownership, right? Mm-hmm. So it's funny how like therapy has become like a goddamn catchphrase in the lexicon of conversation today.
Right.
That's always very fucking interesting to me, right?
Right.
And I think it's needed, right? I do think it's needed, but I think it's needed based on the fact that we don't operate in love. That's why you so fucking broken. Right? And you got to go to a goddamn stranger because there's nobody in your goddamn life that you could be vulnerable enough to tell your truth to. Because love don't fucking exist. So we got a lot of people on the comments that's disagreeing with a lot of shit we saying. I implore all of y'all to call in. I want to have a conversation.
Yeah, I do too. 872-259-7474. 872-259-7474. Listen, as always, your opinion is valued. It is certainly appreciated. This ain't about being right? I'm not here saying that all of my ideas are right. Two's not saying that either. Just want to try to talk through this thing and find the best way forward, right? And so all aspects, all sides of this particular conversation are welcome. I think that when I see videos like, I think I might have tagged you in like Instagram or some shit, and it was just a video of this brother, like, I don't want to call it a prank because it was just like a real thing, right? And so he had his Lamborghini truck parked on the street, and he go up and talk to the sister without her knowing that's his truck. And she like, yeah, nah. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to hear it. He coming at her with every way possible he think come at her. Nah. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. And he like, okay, cool. Then he walk off, get in his truck. She literally turns around. Right? She literally turns around. Now we can have this conversation. Now she gets in the truck. She's talking about how nice the truck is, yada, yada, yada. I didn't know this was your truck. And so dude is having this conversation, but then he's like, this is all about my truck. You ain't give a fuck about me until you knew this was my truck. And she's like, well, no, you should. I mean, it is a nice car. It does say certain things about you, yada, yada, yada. Fuck out of here, right? That can't be the real thing, right? That it can't be that transactional to where he had no value to you until you saw him get in this truck, and now you are sitting in this truck. You wouldn't talk to him 2 seconds ago. Now you're in his car, right? And I think that it ain't just women, right? Men do that shit too. But when you see it play out in that particular dynamic on camera in a real life situation, it's like, fuck. Like that's really where we are. That is where your value is. Nothing he said, nothing about him was appealing except the fucking car that he drove. Right? And he wasn't no busted looking dude. He was dressed nice, handsome dude, spoke well, approached her with confidence. She wasn't for it. She wasn't trying to hit the shit.
You remember when Mama Love was on the show with us? Mm-hmm. And she talked about the conversation with the white girls and the young brothers. Mm-hmm. And she said that the young brothers, she started to understand near the end of the conversation because the young brothers was having object sex. Mm-hmm. They were just having sex with parts of your body, what objects as the objects. Yeah. Right. So they wasn't even engaged or interested in you. They were just interested in those portions of your body.
Absolutely, guys are like that too, Bueller.
But my point is saying, like, when you start thinking about the levels of surgeries that happen in our society today, right? That shit is commonplace for young women, right? Ass shots, ass surgeries, titty shots, titty surgery. That's commonplace for very young women, right? But this speaks to our lack of love of self, right? And it works, right? It speaks to our lack of love of self because... But it speaks to our lack of love of self because those dynamics that these motherfuckers are emulating were natural to our body types in the first goddamn place. Mm-hmm. But then a white woman gets to the popularizers the shit, and we start mimicking people who mimicked us in the first goddamn place.
Absolutely.
We're becoming caricatures of ourselves based on that dynamic.
Absolutely.
Now that doesn't dispel the fact that men go for that same goofy ass shit.
Same shit.
But it's based and predicated in the same idea. We aren't creating the fucking narrative.
Every year around tax season, you hear all the shit about brothers trying to come up so they can get some woman tax money, right? And it don't be nothing based in value about how she look, what type of person it is. She finna get a check, and as soon as that check is run out, I'm gone, right? So it's both ways. It goes both ways. Don said car booties need love too, right? And that goes both ways. But just in that particular example, it was just like, damn, like that's fucking crazy. But dudes do the same.
But
shit.
for me, you gotta accept whatever comes with that then.
Which may be.
If you are a fucking mercenary, you got to be willing to play whatever fucking war you done invited yourself into. Right? So if you selling your pussy for a ride in my car, then that's what your pussy is valued at. And you gotta accept that. Period.
Right.
And vice versa. If a man is giving away dick because you got the right amount of surgery, then that's what your ass is worth. And whatever comes with that, then you got to deal with that. I have no empathy for it.
So I think again, if once you didn't pick your lane, just like I was saying about 50 Cent and his 400,000 and fuck taxes, like once you didn't pick your lane, then cool, play your game, stay in your motherfucking lane and play that way. But don't say, "Oh, I done chose this lane and I'm feel degraded and disrespected." And like,
no, you can't. This is the lane you chose.
It ain't
right.
both.
Yeah,
it ain't.
You
both.
Can't say men ain't shit when you choose ain't shit men.
Right.
You can't say women ain't shit when you choose ain't shit women.
He treated me bad. He bought you.
You bought and paid for, shorty.
He bought you.
Period.
He can treat you
same for a male.
He can treat you how the fuck he want to.
Same for a man.
Because that other person bought you. That's why they treat you that way.
That's right.
They feel like they bought you, they own you, they can treat you how the fuck they want.
You are material good at that
That's
point.
It, right?
That's it.
Now,
you are an object, as Mama Love would say.
Whether that meets your ear harshly or not, don't fucking matter. It's the contract in which you have non-verbally agreed to. right? Or verbally, whatever, right? Agreed to. Like
so. Ready Rock, real quick. I don't want because these comments is moving. Ready Rock says those women are altering their bodies for men mainly. I'd almost disagree. I think those women are altering their bodies for capital, not for no fucking men. Because they alter their bodies, they take pictures from every fucking angle but the face. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? This camera be all over here and shit. You know what I mean? But then they start to sell what they're selling. Mm-hmm. And we got to be honest. Mm-hmm. What they're selling is pussy.
Sure.
But that ain't about men. It's about making the sale. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Because most men I know, in all honesty, now you might slide, but you don't even like that. You don't even value it like that.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I ain't never seen a dude like, ooh, I like fake titties. I have it. Yeah. I really have it. That's my truth.
Okay.
And even quiet conversations just amongst the fellas, nobody brags about the level of surgery that some women have.
I'm all for the natural shit. Like I'm for the natural shit all the way around.
And this might be biased, but every man I've encountered thinks the same fucking way.
Yeah. Well, both those things can be true too.
You're right.
Both of those things can be true.
You
feel me?
Can.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this can't be the whole culture and the whole wave, and all these women running to do it, and everybody got the same goofy ass nails on, the same goofy ass weave in, the same dumb ass makeup on, and nobody likes it. Somebody's fucking with that shit heavy. Somebody is cutting checks for that shit. Somebody is spending bags for that shit. Somebody's getting flued out for that shit.
The internet. Right? The internet is fucking with it. The modicum of distribution is fucking with it. That's who's fucking with it. I can distribute this image and sell it.
I can say the same thing about the dudes, right? Like, I can sit and say all day, like, this fucking tight pants, dumbass shit y'all be fucking doing, and all this other goofy shit y'all be doing, that shit is dumb, that shit is whack. It can't be, right? Like, both of those things can't be true. Somebody is fucking with that shit. Somebody is cutting checks off that shit. Somebody is selling pussy for that shit. Like, they're getting something out of this. For all these motherfuckers to be on this shit, somebody's winning off of this shit. And it's sad, but it's true. Like, somebody's winning off of this shit. That's just
so. There's a comment that says the women do that for the attention and men do the same thing. That's why they buy the flashy cars, they buy the flashy this, that.
100%.
I don't disagree.
100%.
Right? But that's what I mean, though, right? You seeking that attention because internally, you're devoid of whatever that value set is. Internally, you're missing something.
But you couldn't convince them of that to save their lives, literally. Or figuratively.
I don't know who said it. It might have been Buell or something. It was somebody that said we turn our traumas into, what did she say? We turn our traumas into our goals.
What's up, Maison Daddy? Pop in, man. Let me throw you on the screen.
We turn our traumas into, like, I think it was Buell. It's the way she made that statement, but it was so real. Like, our traumas become our truths or some shit like that. I can't remember how she said it, but it was real. You know, but I think that, again, it goes back to the very narrative of what this country is, right? The very narrative of this country is we define value, and that we is always white folks, right? So when Kim, like, legitimately, there's articles that says Kim Kardashian redefined the big booty or made the big booty valuable. Kim Kardashian she ain't even half my fucking age. Big booties in our community always been the shit.
Right.
So how does she define that value?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But then we get motherfuckers emulating Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
I watched that shit she was on the David Letterman show on the Netflix the other day. I was looking at that shit like, man, she looks fucking retarded.
Yeah, she looks crazy to me every time I see her. But then you take the example of someone like a Lil' Kim, right? Lil' Kim, I thought the first time I seen her, she was fine. She looked like a neighborhood chick, real cute, real down to earth. She talked that shit, she walked that shit, and she was talented.
Bueller said we mistake our traumas for our truth. That's what I want to say. That's dope.
Yeah, our traumas for our truth.
Look, you good at that biting stuff.
To bring in, let's
Here go Maze was the Maze I hate.
Let's bring
turn that man's camera on.
Let's bring in Mace Jackson, man. He is Mace Jackson. He's the architect of What's in It for the Black People Media, and you can catch the Mace Jackson Show 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. every weekday morning right here on What's in It for the Black People Media. Mace, you were sitting outside in the green room in the lounge area, and you had to come in and add to the conversation.
Actually, I was in the car. And I was driving.
Okay.
And I just been this conversation. Actually, this is one of the conversations, and I'm gonna tell you we're gonna extend it out on Monday. And I fought myself on even getting involved in this conversation because I didn't want to be the Puff Daddy.
It's a hard conversation to have.
All in the video.
So there's a couple things, right? And I think since this morning show we've been going back and forth over kind of this whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily always Okay. So first of all, I think when we talk about women and their bodies and their whole thing in this, they are chasing an image that has been presented for them. Sure. I agree with you on that. I do not necessarily and I think there's different levels to it, because I think there's the chicks that are on Instagram that get on the plane, the ones that talk about, yo, I'm about to do the whole team and whatever, and those people have given up. Then I think there are the people that are in between, like they seek to emulate that. They don't necessarily want to be the bust down or the hoe, but they want the glamour that comes with being an Instagram model. And so they bend over and they take all those pictures, etc. I think that there's a generational gap though in the way we look at things. Like coming up in the 60s, coming up in the 80s and 90s for fellas, it almost was, there was no economic transaction at all. It was straight up like, I feel like it was love, right? Or it was, I like you, so I'm going to, and there was no transaction, right? And I bought you, I remember being in 7th grade and I liked Rhonda White and I stole a bottle of perfume from my mom's thing and realizing I'm bringing this girl a used bottle of perfume. But there was not, I didn't feel like that was a trade. It was a display of me liking you. There was no what I have to do. I think that right now we live in a culture where everything is transactional. Like, and it's scary to me because for all of the things that you can teach, show, and I can even use my own personal experience, like you can teach and show your children and give it to them, this internet thing really warps their perspective. Man, Joe, but I don't think that just because, I don't necessarily think that every chick is always trying to trade trade. Like, and even like, I think like we was having this conversation this morning, right? We talked about the whole concept of when I went after Carrie, I sodded her lawn and watered it and then brought drinks every day. I feel like that was not a transaction. Right. I feel like that was a display of
how I feel about you, what I'm willing to do for you,
and because I had it, right? Like it was because I could spend. I had a hookup on. Don't make. I wasn't like I'm gonna spend $1,000. I could do. I had a hookup on the side, right? But I had a hookup on the side.
Yeah.
I don't. And when we talked about it this morning, I was not for I think that's much different than paying a bill. I don't think that because someone pays your bill or because you handed it to them that you necessarily owe them. What I'm trying to emphasize to our sisters is that if you make that, it creates an expectation in brothers' heads. It doesn't mean that you're any less than, but just know that if you, in my mind, if you hand me a bill, because I'm going to tell you, there's never, in all of my dating, I've never been in a conversation where there was a conversation about a bill. And if there was a conversation about a bill, I knew where the girl was going.
Sure.
Or I thought I knew where the girl was going. But I don't necessarily feel like you owe. But I do think that you need to understand, I don't think you can be bought. And I don't even think if you pay the bill that you're bought. What I do think you should understand is that it's gonna be a confused nigga walking around though. Like, hold on. Wait a minute. Like,
what D.L. Hughley say? This is the fucking side of the menu. You realize this is the fucking side of the menu, right?
And what I do, and I am not gonna say that there is a fucking side of the menu, literally, but there is mentally in a mind. Because I'm always saying, like, dang, there's not a time I enter a conversation or a situation where I'm like, man. I always tell people, don't even buy me nothing to eat because I'm going to order from that side of the menu because that's what I'm used to. But I do think it is, I don't think you're bought because you accept. However, I do think you create an expectation And I don't necessarily know if you can always manage the expectation. It goes to your point of, like, when I think of it, I don't think of it from the standpoint of like a dude saying, "Nah," I think of it from, "But can you whip my ass though?"
Right.
Like, I just paid $500 or $700, and we at the crib and the music is on, and you like, "Yeah, nah, I'm not going." I think, just not that you're owed that, but be prepared for. I mean, you got dudes that will shoot you because you
myself apart, right?
Right, but you got dudes that we just saw the story about a dude that shot a girl who got pregnant. So I think that as we go off these, I would always say that if you take a gift of value from anyone that you are any level of courting or whatever, and he is a man, he, no matter whether he says it or not, his impression is that he getting some. Now it might be 6 months.
If you came into this thing and you have an expectation for what it is that you want, it would only be reasonable to assume that the other person is expecting something too. Now, whether your expectation is he's going to spend money on me, he's going to buy me this, buy me that, that's fine, right? Then you must have it would be reasonable for you to expect something on the other end. That's the same thing for the guy, right? If you coming in here and I'm linking up with her and I'm expecting to get something by the end of the night, you got to ask yourself, what is she expecting in return from me, right?
And I would say, just for the record though, like we said, the fucking side of the menu, but there's also, like, to me, the kissing side of the menu,
but wait a minute,
stick your hand in the,
wait a minute,
sure.
And that's kind of the context of the entirety of the conversation, right? If you buy from this side of a menu, you have an expectation, right? And then what is she expecting from me? That still goes to the same context. It's everybody's operating in transaction.
100%, bro.
It's all transaction. It's all
bullshit.
the fucking negotiation.
Yeah.
Right? So when you buy from the quote unquote fucking side of the menu and then you ain't fucking, you're dishonoring the negotiation.
No, but if you weren't part of the negotiation, hold on. But you had to go. No. Because I'm gonna say like this: if I enter the game and you call it the fucking side of the menu, but if that's because you only used to a $30 steak, right? That's the fucking side of the menu to you. Now, there's a fucking side of the menu to somebody else who, like, nigga, if you think that dinner at Gibson's is the fucking side of the menu, which is what I think. This is what I think.
But time out though, man. And I'm saying this.
Gibson's.
Wait. It's a nuance.
Chicks going for a 6-piece.
But it depends on the chick.
It depends who.
It's a nuanced conversation,
right?
With the woman I value, however I got to that value asset, me going to Gibson's or me going to whatever side of the menu don't matter, right? But we all know off the rip, this is this kind of girl. She's here because I did XYZ, because I pulled up in my Porsche. She's here because I pulled.
No, she pulled up because I'm dope.
There's an energy attached to all that shit, right? And we play the game, right?
Absolutely.
We play the game to fit into we buy the clothes we buy.
Absolutely.
We drive the cars we buy.
I think everything dudes do for the most part is about picking up girls.
It's based on the game.
If it wasn't
right?
about the game,
so
if it wasn't about the women, we wouldn't do nothing.
It's all in negotiation. It's all transactional.
See, but I would disagree from the standpoint that
on what piece?
On the part that is that there was no negotiation. Like, here, remember the $250,000 chick. There
It's
ain't
an
nobody.
implied negotiation.
No, you're implying it's the negotiation.
Yeah,
the
implied.
chick is saying, "Yo, dog, I'm used to being around ballers who have cars like this, etc."
Sure.
I don't. Let me tell you what. There are women, in my estimation, like I would say that when I was lobbying, right? When I was lobbying at Full Tilt, I was, in my estimation, balling. I know I was balling most of them. 99.7%. Carrie was like, yeah, I mean, I know you want to go out on a date. I know all that stuff, and that's all part of your value package, and you got the suits and the whole thing, but none of it fazed her. Right. And so she never entered in, and I took out to every dinner, everywhere, tried to impress her.
Which is why you married her, as opposed to hitting her in some whack ass hotel and never talking to her again. She's a fucking wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, that bullshit ain't gonna come along with it. But if that bullshit is what's impressing you, if that bullshit is what makes you show up, then understand
then you
how
get
you're gonna
treated
be
like that.
You know what I'm saying?
But see, you made a statement though, and again, I think we having varying degrees of one conversation.
Okay.
Right.
You know,
so
I'm making sure I gotta
like,
you know, I gotta protect my girl Ruthie though.
You was like, shout out to Ruthie. I apologize to Ruthie, because again, what I said was not meant to harm Ruthie or disrespect Ruthie. It was taken out of context.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But Maze just said a statement. He was like, when I was lobbying, there was chicks around that was used to XYZ, right? Used to XYZ. But whatever you used to doesn't equate to value, right?
To you it does.
Dr. King, Malcolm X, Jay-Z, put them next to each other. Dr. King died penniless. Malcolm X died penniless. Which one of them men have more intrinsic value? Jay-Z's going to die with a wealth of capital. Mm-hmm. Which one of those men are more valuable? Who sold crack to their mama and who uplifted a whole goddamn race of people?
Depends on who you ask.
Again, it depends on your value.
What you value.
Exactly.
That is the context of the conversation.
Problem.
Kings don't exist no more because we don't have any value in anything but what the white man has told us to value.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I mean,
I'm open to the argument.
No, I'm saying like if you're saying that I would not agree that white people define my value. They don't. Right now, I think
let's step outside of the me and wrap ourselves into the we.
Okay.
Whereas in our younger years, and you older shit because you're your older years. why is Queen Latifah's Who You Calling a Bitch a top 10 single, and then today Cardi B is I Got This Wet Ass Pussy? What has shifted those paradigms?
But let's be clear, there was always bad bitch, all of that existed. Let's be clear. It wasn't mutually exclusive. So there was Lil Kim and Foxy Brown at the same time that there was Lauryn Hill and all of that. And that was all in the time.
Where's the other side of the spectrum today for the Cardi B?
I mean, I think the other side of the spectrum is where you're looking at. My other side of the spectrum is my wife.
No. That's personal.
Okay.
Where's the other side of the spectrum for the Cardi B in the lexicon of what's being promoted to the people? Who's the opposite side of the spectrum for Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion? We can keep the city girls. Where the fuck is the positive black female representation?
I would say not marketed, but
I just went off the top. I don't listen to none of them fucking people. I just went off the top and named like 6 of them.
The biggest issue is that the narrative has been completely shifted. So now that is the positive.
Because the value system is shifting toward
being
this
able
is
to
the
live
only
how they
shit
want to
that
live
values.
and get to the back how they want to get to the back. That is the positive thing now. I mean, you can find positive music. There are some artists. You got like Neelam and stuff like that.
I ain't saying they don't exist.
But
who's in charge of that marketing? Exactly. And then who's in charge of putting that out
there?
The
person who creates the narrative for all of us.
But I would suggest this. I would suggest that in the case of this conversation, I think it is intrinsic upon us to start placing the value. Right, like to reestablish the value and to reestablish the value.
Rhapsody
with
is out there.
Black, and I'm honestly like straight up like the only reason I know WAP is because it's I don't even know who is on music. I barely even listen to Jay now. Right, I'm listening to y'all mugs every day. Not y'all.
Yes,
everybody but y'all.
Everybody. He knows that's the truth.
Y'all even come on every day.
We're his fucking favorite show on the station. He knows that.
No, so I would say this, y'all. The challenge I think we have to have, particularly at where we sit, like where we sit in this universe, is how do we find our way back, right? Like how do we find the premise of establishing the value for those women? Because I think that, right, you have minimized. And I would say that, quite frankly, the Cardi B's of the world make the story for the Ruthie Moores of the world different. And I would suggest that in our place, like, and I think we have got to, and I'm struggling with this shit. I'm struggling with this shit myself. Like, I got a daughter, right? A daughter who has seen everything in the world, and I've tried and strived to put the best example in front of her. But all of this stuff that we talking about permeates. I think the biggest challenge that I have to show for her oftentimes is that I do place value in black women, right? One day she noticed to me, what she said to me, Dad, was, man, Dad, I noticed you never cursed my mom out.
Right.
You never referred to her out of her name.
Right.
Right? And I think that intrinsic value in a lot of places for black women has to come from black men, but it has to be mutual.
Yeah, and it's not there. And so then when it's not there, the substitutions begin to fill those spaces. And that's where you have the Cardi B's and City Girls and all that shit. And though you can name artists, other artists, like I said, Neelam or I heard about Rhapsody or No Name.
And Rhapsody ain't that cute.
See, you just made the conversation, the whole argument complete bullshit again. But though you can find their music, right, it is not readily available. You're not going to turn your radio on and the first thing you're going to hear is going to be some Rhapsody. It's going to be Cardi and fucking Megan, right? And kudos to them. If that's how they want to rock and that's how they get into their bag, the problem then becomes that everybody sees that as the only value there is.
But it's really not how they rock. It's a programmer who programs the station.
Right.
We had to be honest about that. And
well, I think it's how they rock too.
I mean, Cardi came out the strip club.
Right, and so Megan, okay.
I'm not dispelling none of that historically. What I'm saying, if you look at a fucking puppet, the puppet might make a whole bunch of fucking moves. But if you ain't watching the motherfucking puppeteer, you might get confused and think the puppet is in control. It ain't that fucking way. We are the motherfucking puppets, not the puppeteer. I'm positioning an argument to say we got to start being the puppeteers of our lives. Right? Going back to May just talked about his daughter. I got a daughter too that I love more than I love oxygen. Be clear about that, right? And my daughter is 11 years old now. And we've already had conversations like, Daddy, I'm ugly. Daddy, I don't feel good about myself. And I'm a man, so this ain't no shit I'm accustomed to dealing with, right? And this is my baby girl who, again, I will give up oxygen for. Right. You understand? Right. And those first 4-5 times we had that conversation, I did what I thought was necessary. Oh, baby, you know, you beautiful. Because she fucking beautiful. She come from me. It's just what we produce. You understand?
That wasn't going to be the reason. I was going to agree, but that wasn't going to be the reason. She's absolutely adorable and she's brilliant,
for the first 4 or 5 times we had this conversation, now, baby, you beautiful. Don't you ever believe that shit. I don't know who told you that. You look like your daddy. You got to be gorgeous.
Stop it.
I'm going through the motions with my daughter. Right? But the 6th, 7th time it came around, I looked at it differently. And I said, check this out, baby. This is the 6th, 7th time you came to me with this conversation. You're beautiful. But if you don't believe you're beautiful, then you're going to be as ugly as you think you are. You control your definition of who you are. Daddy can't even enforce that. Daddy can't make you feel valuable.
I can't even influence it.
I can't even influence it if you don't feel valuable internally.
Right.
I love you more than life, but I can't change how you feel about you. You got to change how you feel about you. And this is 11-year-old, right? But how many 35, 20 are still walking through this world and they're saying, and it's not just women.
I was going to say it's all of us.
It's all of us.
It's all of us. And I'm trying to go back to this comment Celine made, if I can, because Celine, you know, being who Celine is, he kind of just laid the whole shit out. And it was like, because we feel worthless, we attach ourselves to like outside values. I can't find an exact comment because Salim said the shit was more poetic than I could.
Of course.
But that's basically the premise. And therein lies the conversation, or the crux of the totality of the conversation we had today, right? Here we are. We put our entire value set in things. In a society or in a community where we don't even have...
We don't have many things.
We don't have the resources to get things.
We put our value in those things because we don't have them, and they have always been put in front of us as...
Right. We're trying to buy our value.
We're trying to get there. I mean, I'm going to tell you honestly, straight up, bro. I was talking about this the other day when I was saying, like, yo, to this day, and I can't lie, I'm going to say all this stuff affects you because, again, I still drive when I freaking bought my car.
Right.
I got a soundtrack. What would Jay say about this? What's going on?
Right.
And I do think about those values. But I also just think that part of this whole thing we got to do, man, is we got to, like, I don't know. How do we get that back, though? How do you give your child beauty and value? Because I'm going to tell you, too, like, the shit you're talking about is real. Like, when I see my baby girl with extension, like, baby girl, your hair is long already. It grows quick than a mug. Why you got 22-inch weave in your hair? And we wasn't it for the black. I done blacked you out. I done took you to every power woman in the world, and they still my daughter like
your daughter can be impacted by the messaging. We have to figure out a way to take back control of the narrative, because that's where this shit comes from. And so I don't know that Cardi or Megan are being inauthentic. They may very well be being their authentic self. That may be how they rock, and how they move. The question then becomes, why is it that those are the chosen ways to move that are being marketed and pushed out to all of our people? Why not the Rhapsodies? Why not the No Names?
Because I think you hit it earlier. I think you hit it earlier. I think it goes all the way back to the lack of reproduction. Like, how do we stop these motherfuckers from
ever feeling whole?
Like, how do we keep them with a hole in there? And part of that is, again, making you feel inadequate. You sharing your inadequacy with someone else, and then both of y'all trying to say, if you ain't got this, you ain't got this, then
two broken birds trying to fly.
Ooh, I like that.
And you motherfuckers ain't never get on.
I don't really like that though.
You know what I mean?
You don't like it because you don't say what I said.
But it's also necessary. And it's necessary in the sense that we start seeing relationships for the universal value that they actually offer. When you look at that other broken bird, what you see usually is a broken bird, but what you should see is a reflection of yourself. And the goal there is to what? Heal you. So you can find that.
What you been talking to
love.
Erica Bracey and Dawn or some shit?
Listen, that is absolutely.
Just read, goddammit.
That is absolutely necessary. It is also necessary for us to take our last break of the afternoon. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on this conversation, and we'll set the stage for Chicago famous.
Why y'all scared to call though? All y'all women talking all this shit in the comments. Pick up the phone.
Because they don't like you.
872-259.
You ain't got to like me. Call it out. That's what I want you to do. Call and make me wrong.
872-259-7474. I said what I said. Herman 2 will be right back.
WIIFTV-PM.
The Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of attorneys that concentrate in many areas of the law most needed in Chicago neighborhoods. The CLN lawyers focus on personal injury, criminal defense, and other issues. The CLN lawyers all average over 20 years of legal experience and are dedicated to helping the Chicago community. The Chicago Legal Network is committed to developing black lawyers through mentorship and co-representation. So if you were injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or injured on the job, or you need assistance with criminal defense, including driving violations and DUI, check out ChicagoLegalNetwork.com for more information or call 773-912-3545. 773-912-3545.
Is it really a good idea to have the same senator for 3 generations? I support term limit for all elected officials. Our senators need to bring home growth for our business community, jobs, housing, service for our senior citizens, and health care. We need new ideas and new approach to federal representation. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson. Vote for me and send me to Washington, D.C. God bless.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for Senate 2020.
WIIFTV-PM.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio. You're listening to I Said What I Said.
Wait, what did you say?
I said you're listening to I Said What I Said.
I just said that.
I know you.
We go. We shine wherever we go. We shine wherever we go. We shine wherever we go.
WIIFTV.
Welcome to the mind of
From What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
On my head, see a young nigga got this. We don't give a fuck what the cop said.
Wait, what did you say?
I'm living a legacy. So even when I die, I am not dead. Nigga, I am not dead. Fuck with me. We go. We shine wherever we go.
And we are back live from the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. This is I Said What I Said. Tucson Warner, Herb Howard here with you every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Thank y'all so very, very much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. Thanks to Red for stopping through the studio as well. He wanted to be on the Big Red. Big Red wanted to be on the #1 show on the network. He always found a way to sneak into our shit. He swear he don't like I Said What I Said, but he really fuck with it heavy.
It's his favorite show.
He's a fan
by far, even more favorite than his own show.
He's a fan. He's a fan, and I understand. Listen, been having a conversation today. I guess it kind of started off as a conversation about, gold digging. Men and women doing the same thing, finding transactional reasons to partake in a relationship, be it sexual or otherwise. And I think it's kind of evolved into a real conversation about what we find valuable as a people, right? Like, what do we find value for ourselves, and how do we view others as being valuable? You made the comparison between the likes of Malcolm X and Dr. King to that of a Jay-Z. And by and large, you'll find that Jay-Z is probably more favorable in terms of who people deem as valuable, right? Because, like you said,
we've even moved Jay-Z into the positions of King and Malcolm, right? And if someone came up in the tradition of King and Malcolm today, he'd have no intrinsic value because he doesn't mimic the look of Jay-Z. That's why they don't exist today. It ain't like these motherfuckers ain't being born.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. But that's not what a value is. Same way when you. Same way you this motherfucker Maze.
Turn Maze ass off. Cut his goddamn mic.
Yeah, the Jay-Z more valuable than Dr. King, because if that's how you want to view it, right? We talked about earlier. Bewley was talking about our desire to wear the chains and the glitz and the glamour and all those type of things. That's where we find our value, right? We don't find it in no other shit. If we did, you would see those things moving around, and it works the same way for women too, right? You talk about the Cardis and the Megans. Nothing against them. That's how you choose to live your life. Choose how you live your life. I am a huge supporter of everybody choosing to live how the fuck they want to live, but you can't say it's both ways. You can't really be like, okay, I'm living like this, and I'm pushing out this message, and I'm on this pro-black shit. They aren't the same. They are not the same. And so I think that there's a reason that those particular artists are chosen as the voices and the faces at the forefront of the cultural movement, as opposed to the faces of people like Rhapsody or No Name or Neelam. Like there's a reason for that shit.
There's a plan, right? Mm-hmm. There's a plan. There's an overlooming plan, but there's also part of this is personal responsibility. You know what I mean?
100%.
And the reason why,
at least 50%,
Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B or even Jay-Z for that matter, right? In a lot of ways, still filters into our lives is because part of growth is responsible. Part of that growth takes a level of work, right? It takes a level of accountability, right? And the reason why a 14-year-old and let's say that 40-year-old parent are getting out of college listening to the same music is because that parent hasn't accepted that growth element, that responsibility element, right? And that happens because there's no spiritual aptitude, one.
Sure.
And because there's no investment in intellect in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Right. So as you learn more and grow more, what you value changes. It just is. It's the natural inclination of all that shit.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's why they say ignorance is bliss, right? Because your dumb ass don't know shit, nothing affects you, right? So we're operating in a state of false blissness because we won't invest in the responsibility of growing, right? In order to get strong in the gym, right?
You got to kill those.
You got to blow up your goddamn original muscle.
Right.
You got to burst through it, right? But we don't want to do that, so we'll go get lipo because that shit takes work.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. We don't never.
And it's my reason for doing it isn't pure, right? My reason for it is not rooted in me wanting to be a healthier, stronger person. It is rooted in wanting to be deemed valuable by outside sources. If it was about me being healthy, I would do the shit that it takes to be fucking healthy and do the things that it takes to be fucking stronger. It ain't even about me. It ain't even about my health or my strength. It is about how other people view me, I'm not even going through the shit to actually make me healthy. I'm gonna do this shit in 2 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's all vanity based.
It's all bullshit. I saw something from the other day from Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson, former wide receiver in the NFL, probably, in my opinion, one of the top 20 wide receivers that ever played the game. Made a lot of money in his career. He was telling another former player, I don't remember who it was, that all of his jewelry, all the shit that he wore during his career, like all that shit was fake. And when I first heard it, I'm like, Chad, that's some dope shit, right? But then as I went further into it, he's like, look, all that shit was fake. He was like, and I could wear fake shit because I'm Chad Johnson and people know I got money, so they assume that it's real. I don't fucking see no real value in this shit.
But if you really Chad Johnson and you really valuable, why you got to put shit on?
Why the fuck did you have to come with the fake shit anyway? Right? If that's really what you was at with it, why would you even feel the need to come with even the fake shit?
Because internally you empty.
Now you didn't find a way to save you some money and realize, hey, they believe I got it anyway, so I can save some money on it. But the sickness is the fucking same. You still feel the need to put this shit on for somebody, even though you fucking know you don't see no real value in it. Crazy as fuck to me.
And that emptiness is a reaction to our history on this soil. We were put into a caste system. We were denigrated. We were treated less than human. Right? That shit is written into the fucking Constitution. You understand what I'm saying? You are 3/5 of a human fucking being. To assume that doesn't have an effect on you, you are foolish. Right? So when it comes to the conversation about the dysfunction in our communities, and what happens with this conversation bothers me because it becomes this kind of, no, you did, it looks like this goddamn blame conversation. And even maybe in the context of how we displayed this conversation today, it might have came off as a blame.
Sure.
But it's not a blame. It's a motherfucking cry for us to grow through the fucking pain. Because that blame shit, I think our success is rooted in our understanding or our ability to love one another, right? They say that the presence of the feminine and the masculine is the creation of God. You have to have both of them to create God, right? So the truth is the cure to this shit will grow out of the households of our children,
which is why we do Relationship Fridays,
right? It will grow out of what we produce out of our households, right? Your first understanding of God is your parents. right? And if you are in a home with God and God is treating you like an angel, then you can't do nothing but understand and love yourself. Because that becomes your value asset. That's what you become rooted in, the identity of that household.
Sure.
Right? Sure. So the air bubble and the joy, and you know immediately this shit don't make me jump higher. Work will.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Work will.
Right.
And sometimes that love looks like challenge. And I'm challenging the shit out of us to learn to be honest in this conversation. Right? We can move the goalposts all the fuck we want to. It don't make it honest. And revolutionary honesty is the fucking cure in this moment. And it's very needed because we are entering into a phase where we're about to see the largest wealth transfer in the history of this country. And I'm talking about pre and post slavery. Right? We know what the fuck we had as slaves. And we're saying this is the largest transfer ever.
Right.
What the fuck does that look like when we already are predicating our value on a narrative that someone else is creating?
Because we keep giving them opportunities to redo the same system, right? Whether that's coming out of slavery and redoing the thing, coming up with Jim Crow, come out of that and we want to redo the thing, and now you got these government parties where we are beholden to one or the other, and if you step outside of that, then you're ridiculed, judged, and all these other things. I think that we have to look into ourselves for these answers, right? And we have to be committed and steadfast in those shits. If you don't fucking value that shit, then why are you partaking in it? Chad Johnson and Eugene McIntosh said the same thing.
Hey, shout out to Gino too. That motherfucking Antoine Walker interview was dope as fuck, man. Salute. I can't wait till Gino get Manab on there. So I know Gino's true story, and them was the three amigos in high school. I can't wait till they had that conversation.
And he just mentioned Donovan McNabb. He said Donovan McNabb wore all cubic zirconia too. Like that's his man, right? There was 3 superstars coming up out of that school, right? Football, basketball, baseball, right? And hoopers too, right? And it's just like if you don't really see no fucking value in that shit, then why are you faking that shit? That shit is silly to me, right? Either you find value.
Who are you faking it for?
Not for you. Not for you. You want other people to see you as valuable. You want other people to see you as fucking valuable, and that's not even a real thing. That's not even a real thing, man. Shout out to the Bigs. If y'all not tuned in, make sure y'all be on the soil with the Bigs every Tuesday and Thursday right here on What's In It for the Black People Media. They cover Chicago sports as only the Bigs can. Tuesday, Thursday, 1 to 3 p.m. right here.
Here's a bit of funny, I guess, in a lot of ways when you think about the context of how we respond to this shit. And I don't know if women do this the same way. I'm not sure. But in my lifetime, I've had some on the grade scale, the classroom grade scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or F. It's not to F. I've had some A-looking women.
Okay.
I've had some A-level sex.
It's some dangerous shit. Come
on.
It
is. I've had some A-looking women. I've had some A-level sex. I've also had the complete opposite.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But the motherfucker that you usually find yourself rooted in and...
Have you ever had...
What?
Have you ever had A-level sex from the F-looking woman?
I got some D+ women. I ain't never went to the F and Bob. I got some strong D+ in there.
A strong D+.
Strong D+. Maybe high C's.
A solid 68.7. Looking at.
But my point of even making that statement is that, at least in my experience, the women that I always find myself selling with and really having value in was really the C student motherfucker in the first place. Because what you find, at least what I found, is the A-level motherfucker usually places all their value in whatever that A asset is. Whatever that A asset is, and that's just not good enough for me. Right? Just because you look a certain way, that shit don't keep me engaged.
Nah.
It don't.
Not a real thing.
You know what I mean? You got to be well-rounded, and that usually comes, really and truthfully, motherfucker, C students run the world.
Oh, literally.
They really legitimately do.
Listen, I don't really like it's cool for you to look good and all that shit, and that could look nice while we are entertaining each other physically. But when this is over, right? If we can't have a fucking conversation, we don't have shit to talk about, you gotta fucking go. And there's no real fucking value in that shit. Like I need to be able to, anyway, let me get the fuck up out of here.
Hot boy Herbs for this. Hot boy Herbs shit.
I was finna go somewhere and I didn't really need to go. But anyway, we gotta get up out of here, man. Coming up next is Chicago famous Mike Love and Diz here with you every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m. Happy Friday, y'all. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend.
Man,
make sure
share,
y'all treat each other good.
Share.
We appreciate y'all supporting.
Like
the page.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button, man.
Smash the stop button.
Smash the stop button as well.
Shout out to us for our fucking intro, because that is the greatest intro in this goddamn station. Major's in here hating because he don't have that same intro. You know that song that they have on their show? I don't know what that song is, but it sounds like somebody's choir on 47th Street.
For the black people? Yeah. He got a 40 in his back pocket for sure.
Yeah, they definitely singing in front of a garbage can with a fire coming out that motherfucker.
Hey, brother, what's in it for the black
people,
brother? What's in it for the black people? Well, I used to have it. I used to have them pipes back. No,
with a 40 in the
I
bag.
actually like the song as long as nobody lets Maze come up with the line dance. That shit has to be over. Ron coming here fingering willing me again. Ron finna cut us off again. Me and Ron almost had a fight last week. Was that last night? It was Wednesday.
Man, Lucretia, I swear to God, I want you on this show so bad. We got to have Lucretia on this show next Friday.
I'll tell you what we're gonna start doing. We're gonna start making you guys come in as our guests instead of like booking other people. We're gonna have y'all come in and be the guests on the show. Please get this weak ass line dance. What's in it for the black people? The song is cool. You have no business dancing. I don't know what the Sigmas did. I don't know how to let you in. I know you aren't in none of the step shows. We gotta get up out of here. Coming up next is Chicago famous Mike Love and Diz here with you from 3 till 6. Y'all keep it locked right here on What's in it for the Black People Media. We will be back Monday at 1 p.m. for Ron Rilla doing all the hard work behind the glass.
Yes, sir.
And for Tucson Warner. My name is Herb Howard. We'll see y'all Monday. Until then, y'all be good to each other.
Salam alaikum.
Peace.
WIFTV.